Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream where I didn't know what I was going to stream today because I was kind of like, well, the window's done and there's not too much going on other than that because it's the international break and the international break is the worst time because there's nothing to talk about either in terms of this or in terms of other bits and bobs and all that kind of stuff. But we have had a little bit of conversation had, which is specifically between the current sort of COO of Leeds United, being, I just want to make sure I got the name 100%. Have I clicked on the wrong thing? Robbie Evans, there we go, that's the guy. Robbie Evans having had a little bit of a natter with various journalists and stuff like that, so I'm going to take a little bit of a dive into it. And we're going to talk about what was sort of said and have a little bit of discussion. I would like to make the note, before we get into all of that though, that I'm not in the position of screaming sack the board at the sky, because I feel like a lot of people are. I'll be honest, it's not me at the moment, to be completely honest with you. I don't think that anyone benefits from that, and I think at the moment we're in a better spot than we were at the start of the 49ers being here, but a lot of people might disagree with that. That's completely up to you. That's fine. Anyway, we're going to go through the two different articles in the YEP that are covering part 1 and part 2 of this whole thing. Can we swear? I mean, yeah, sure, probably, but it might get me demonetised, so I think probably no. I put Robbie Cook, not Robbie Evans. Who the hell's Robbie Cook? Why have I put Robbie Cook? Thank you. I've fixed that. Who's Robbie Cook? Why have I thought it was Robbie Cook? Is Robbie Cook that goalkeeper? Robbie Cook's the goalkeeper. Right, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, so we're going to go through the story malarkey, the shenanigans, the bits that happened. We'll go through it is that part 1 or is that part 2? That's part 1. We'll go through part 1, then we'll go through part 2, because, you know, we're chronological bios around these parts, which is lovely, and we're going to not do complete head loss, because I know that we like doing complete head loss around these parts, and we find it quite fun. But I'd rather we not, because it doesn't really help anybody. Cool? Cool. Thought so. Right, let's get into it. So, starting off by saying that we had a bad deadline day, but a good window, having maxed out spending under PSR. This is the bit that a lot of people are going to be like, why don't you just break PSR? It's like, yes, you can just break PSR. Fine. However, then you get points deductions and shit, and if you do it consciously, you get the bigger points deductions because the Premier League go, oh, okay, cool, you just wanted to break Premier League rules. Brilliant. I have just realised that ticker is still up, so I'm going to get rid of that. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Cool. Went into it looking for one last piece of the puzzle. Right winger who can play inside takes set pieces. Harry Wilson was sort of the perfect job for that. You could make the argument that Spurgeon would have done that. Maybe a Hamer, someone like that. Let's get to the actual Q&A bit though. First question has to be deadline day, because obviously you didn't even get one, never mind 2 over the line. How do you explain that? Why didn't that happen? That's the big question, I think. Straightforward, we had someone Tiger, didn't come through. We thought we had the right price. Put in an offer above the price. Player was on board. Club couldn't get it done. Their club couldn't get it done. We sent in the deal sheet after being given some indication it could work. It clearly didn't. But they were also doing 3 deals at once coming in yesterday. Fulham signed €85 million worth of wingers yesterday. Whether it was out of time or just decided not to sell, we don't know, but it didn't happen. Thankfully for us, that's why we did the overwhelming majority of our business before the last day, so we missed that one. We didn't get him. It's kind of that simple. This is where you kind of go, why did we wait till the last day? Because you've made the note here saying, thankfully, we did the overwhelming majority before the last day. So why is the one part that Daniel Farke has been asking for since, like, Jorginho Reter left? Why is that the part that's waited until there is 0 time? Like, I do agree. The rest of the business, fantastic. That's why I'm still putting the whole window as a overall unit, like a 6 out of 10, because everything behind the front line, spot on. But then it comes to the front line and things aren't good enough. Anyway, what would Harry Wilson have added? Let's be honest, no one particularly gives a shit about that. Transfer window, how would you look at the window? How does Daniel Farke sum it up? Success, average, poor window because it ended badly. Do you sum it up? I don't believe that he really talks about how Farke would feel, because he can't really talk about how Farke feels because he's not Daniel Farke. But headline is a bad day at the end of a good window. This, I think, is roughly where I'd sit on it. I think the window as a whole was decent, and then deadline day came, and it wasn't good enough, which sucks. But that's fine. Every single player we signed was a top choice, so nobody moved to different clubs that we wanted more than the guys that we got. What? Hold on. Moved to different clubs that we wanted more than the guys that we got. So the thing, they didn't want Paixão as much as they wanted Stack, is what I think they're saying. Or they didn't want Paixão as much as they wanted Okafor? Which is a weird way to try and sell that, because that's absolute horseshit, but okay, cool, we move. Do you think Leeds fans are fretting about nothing? I will get to that in a little bit. I'm just going through the article first, and then we will get to wherever we're getting to. But I think that is a very good question that we can answer in a bit. In that respect, we feel positive. It's a bit frustrating to have it end like it ended, because it was cherry on top, etc., etc. It wasn't the pillar that held up the window, it was the last bit. We wanted one more attacker, we didn't get him. On balance, we executed our plan early and effectively and ended the window better than I thought we could have done back in May. If this is better than we thought we could have done, then I'd agree in the defensive and midfield areas. I wouldn't agree up top, but that's fine. This is where we get onto the fun PSR stuff. Looks like there was money there for Paixão and Bonanotte. Obviously, Wilson others' perception will be that you haven't spent all the money that's available. That's the question that everyone's asking. And yet, we're now maxing out PSR, which is a good point. But then you got the other good point, which I think has been noted fairly significantly, that was if we could have gone for the targets yesterday onto higher priced players back in July, consequences would have been seen in the current roster. Either we couldn't add other players, so it wouldn't have been possible to do like an Okafor if we would have gotten the players like a Paixão and a Bonanotte, or you'd see more key players from last season having to go. Which is sort of interesting, because obviously someone like Meslier is going to be hard to shift. The fact that we couldn't shift him at all is still baffling to me. Like, I feel like Illan Meslier is the player that should have gone more than anyone else. But to note the whole key players from last season's promotion side would have had to go, I don't know who that would be that wouldn't have significantly weakened the squad. For us, there are only a handful of players that were worth even considering making those kind of sales, so that's going to be non-first team players that you can still sell for a decent amount, I think, off the top of my head. When those top players didn't materialise, we held on to our key players instead, which kind of makes sense, but also, why did we hold on to the non-key players is a further follow-up question for me. Everyone else has to sell, so why should we be any different? I don't think we should be any different. I think selling is something that would have made sense for us to do with some players. But honestly, I'm still a little bit surprised that even the non-key players, even the players that anyone would have looked at and gone, yeah, they're gone, because of course they're gone. Like, Bamford not somehow getting a fee, or even a loan, is baffling to me, because even in the case of a loan, it's like someone else covers a chunk of wages. Brilliant, we don't need to pay off his contract. For JB, how have we not sorted a fee out there? For Gelhardt, something permanent would have made so much more sense. Squareball just said Meslier in the end, turned down his move to sit it out for a season. But why is the question. I don't understand. I'm going to have a listen to the Squareball thing after this. I'm not going to play the entire Squareball thing on here, because I feel like that wouldn't help anything. But 50% selling is a joke. I don't know if it is. I think that's in the situation where we can't actually get money out of Hull, because we can't unless they sell him. I think a 50% selling clause is the best approach we could have taken, but should have started the ball rolling with these players in January. I think the thing is, in January, like, Meslier was still first choice in January, I think, just about. Like, he was a question mark, sure, but he was still the first choice, and you can't, like, actively look to sell him when you're in a promotion race. At the same time, like, Bamford, you might be thinking at that point, well, you're not key to the promotion effort, so fuck it. But you don't know that he's 100% gone in the summer. Like, JB, sure, should have been worked on. Greenwood, I mean, that one worked out. I've got no idea how that worked, but it did. Gelhardt not getting a fee is still weird to me, though. Don't quite get that one. Free market agent, let's not. I'm not too asked about that. And then we've got the PSR headroom stuff. The question being, why didn't you sell players earlier in the window to create PSR headroom? Keep in mind, I've not read all of this. Well, I've not read the entire thing, but I've read chunks of this. When we met Daniel post-promotion in May, unsurprisingly, the players that have the highest PSR profits are the ones that are most critical to our success last year. Yay! And most important for our success. So rather than sell them preemptively in the expectation of having somebody for whom that capital could be better deployed, ticked off high priority boxes first and foremost. So that would be centre-backs, full-backs, central midfield, which is the shit that we did at the start. I'm surprised that we're not saying that the goalkeeper was like one of the top priorities, but that's fine. Had our early signings. If the big fish that were more expensive come along, we could react to make sales at that point in time. I don't know if that works. Because, right, I'm going to be completely honest here, right? Because anyone that has seen, like, the earlier streams that I did when I was doing long streams, when I was doing Football Manager, will know that when it comes to transfer stuff, being in a situation where you're like, dang, I can't afford to pay for this player, I better sell someone, is amateur stuff. Is something that I end up doing because I'm an idiot. That's not. Because at the end of the day, what happens by the not selling in those situations are you end up not selling, so you've not got the money in, but you still need to make an attacking move, but you've not got the money in. Ah! It's so daft. Didn't think it was wise to lose those players just in case that capital was acquired, because I think that having those guys in the team right now, the quality they bring, the continuity from last season, familiarity and his process adds a ton to the squad. So unless they're enabling something truly unique and differential, I'd rather have them here. Okay, fine, whatever. How can they spend so much? This is just about the way that Sunderland works. They sold two very, very good talents. They've got a bigger ground than us, all that kind of shit. We had a big wage bill, etc., etc. But you've got part two that I've also not seen. I didn't even know there was a part two when I first had a bit of a look into this. But let's have a look. Where are we at now? Already said nothing for January now. I don't think they have necessarily said that, have they? The whole point of last season was going for broke to get promoted. A fair and reasonable assessment should have been made on last season's squad, assuming you want to stay up. I don't know. Rodon withdrawn from the Wales squad. I hope it's just tactics and not that his legs are falling off. I think it's a case of... What I saw was that he might have had a little bit of a knock in the match against Newcastle. Newcastle, that's the one. And said knock means that he might not be available for Wales, which I think ain't great, but is sort of be a little bit cautious, make sure he doesn't get more injured, and that'll do it. So they don't want to do anything in January. Not that they won't. Yeah, I think January is going to be a case of like last season in the summer, because last season in the summer we were in a position of, this could be a real problem, couldn't it? Because we had a bunch of midfielders at the same time out injured, so we had to go into the free agent market to get Gilavogi in an emergency. I think January is going to be, we'll do something if there is an emergency. If there isn't an emergency, then probably not. Because if we do something in January, that means we need to sell someone next summer. Or also in January. But I wouldn't want to sell anyone in January anyway, because it's not the deepest squad. Anyway, let's keep going with the skim. Survival difficulty. Daniel said that the weekend without further additions would be difficult to survive. Is he still of that opinion? What was his response to the way the window finished? Difficult either way, certainly a little bit more without attackers, we understand that. We talked last night, he also spoke with Adam. I feel like he gave Adam a bit of a bollocking if I were to have a complete stab in the dark, but fair enough. He had the same view that we did in that he would have liked it, but we have a great squad, did tons of work early, averaging 2 points a game at home. We'll go with the guys we have. My issue here, and you know I love a little bit of data, and you know I love being the stats bitch. I'm not entirely sure you get to say that we've got a pretty strong average at home when we've played twice at home. Because that data set is hilariously small. That's not anyone that has done any sort of statistical thought ever would look at the data set of 2 instances, see someone taking an average out of it and go, that's a fucking stretch. So, we'll see. Do you have a concern internally about the number of goals you could score? Do you think you have enough goals for the team to stay up? I do think we have enough firepower, but it's always a concern. I think we probably have more in attack than we think we do. I think the issue that we've got at the moment is it's not had time and opportunity to click. I think it will click. I think there is space for it to click. And I think with them being basically a lot of new players linking with a lot of new players, it's going to take a moment or so for it to happen. But I don't know. I think we will have enough going forwards. I think the defensiveness, strengthening up that wall at the back is definitely going to help us. Because had a look at statistics before the season started, and every single team that's gotten relegated in the last 2 seasons has conceded 75 goals or more. And the fact that we've not conceded at home yet is positive. But I don't know. If Okafor can't play, how can it click? What do you mean if Okafor can't play? Like, are we just sort of like assuming problems of players at this point? I know that he had a knock against Newcastle, and I know that he's not gone with the Swiss side. But I'll be honest, I'm 90% sure that that particular one... Hold on, something's the wrong size here, and I don't know why. But I'm 90% sure that particular one is a case of stick at Leeds, don't get more injured. Which I kind of respect, to be honest with you. I would not like him injured. That would be quite good. I'm also going to jank about with the size of things because everything looks a little bit off, and I don't quite know why. There we go. Etc. etc. Trade-off. I don't think that strategy was balanced towards both of those things. It wasn't exactly balanced. I'd say we were very defensive leaning rather than balanced. I think that's a stupid thing to do. We are if we don't get injuries. Okay, sure, but your argument is equally if we do get injuries. You got to acknowledge that bit, that as much as I'm like, if a player stays fit, they'll be pretty damn good. You're saying if a player doesn't stay fit, then we're fucked. We're both doing ifs here because we can't see the future. You can't invalidate my if because you like your if. Like, both are viable potential options. And that's a good point from Hannah as well. Mana did very well last season, but when we initially signed him, everyone looked at him and was like, he's injured though. He's always injured. When he came to Leeds and then was, I would say, one of our best players there. And I'll be honest, he's done a medical. That's what medicals are for. Medicals exist to be like, okay, have you got a proper long-term injury risk? No? Cool. Fantastic. Brilliant. Good. So stick around. Strikers and injury risk. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. In terms of strikers, at the best, England international, Germany international, lots of experience for Calvert-Lewin. Injury records are the question. Lucas played less than Pat Bamford over the last 4 years. That feels like a selective data set. What would you sell to say to fans? What? That feels like weird wording. To reassure them that you're confident you're not going to lose these 2 players for several weeks at a time. Jesus Christ, that's an answer. Hang on, I'm going to very, very quickly have to skim this so I can pick bits out. In terms of 5 points from 3, I would be all over that. That would be wonderful. I would take that every day of the week. I think predicting 1 point is genuinely hilarious. Because look at the 3 matches that we've come out of. Newcastle, Arsenal, Everton. None of those are easy games of football. We've come out of that with 4 points. The 3 matches ahead of us are Fulham, who this season are currently 18th and haven't won a game of football. They are Wolves, who are currently 20th and have lost all 3 of their games, and are Bournemouth, who are currently sat in 7th. Admittedly, they're doing pretty damn well, but that doesn't mean 0 points. And we're at home against them, and we're doing pretty damn good at the solid stuff at home. So I think to look at that and be like, we only get 1 point, we're done, it's game over. No, come on. Let's not forget that the things that we've done are with the squad that we have. We were looking to build on the squad that we have, and the fact that we didn't sign anyone on Monday doesn't remove those players from being in the squad. They are still there, they are still fine. We've just not gone bigger. But at the same time, we're not smaller. Then we'll see. I'm Bookmark. No, you're not Bookmark. You're rich. I thought you knew that. If you're a sentient Bookmark, then that's kind of good. Sorry, I knocked something off my desk then. Right. Anyway, give it a skim. Okay, so you bet on yourself. This sums it up. But you make backup plans. You feel comfortable with the risk of a striker, given that you're making some concessions somewhere because you're always going to have to, because you can't get the best of all the players in that position. We made it on injury risk. That half makes sense as a justification, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to sort of compromise on something, whether it's player quality or if it's an issue around a player. In this instance, the issue around a player being the fact that they're injured a bit kind of adds up. This is one big fat lie. Tell me one bit that feels like it's factually untrue. Because admittedly, it feels like it's gone through the politician lens a couple of times, but of course it has. That's how these things work. It's an interview from a COO to the press. He's not going to come out of it and be like, yeah, actually, we're going to get fisted by a dragon dildo for the rest of the season. And someone's wrapped that in barbed wire as well. So that's going to be a problem. No, it's explaining the processes that led to said decisions. And you might not agree with those decisions, but let them explain the processes rather than just going, you are lying about what you think. That doesn't help anyone at all. Without lube. I'm not sure with barbed wire, I don't think the lube makes a difference. I think at that point, blood kicks in. And anyway, whatever. Looking to get 3 points out of 50. No, again, right. Look at the next 5. Look at the next 5 fucking games, right? Again, Fulham, not doing too good. Wolves, dead bottom. Fine, Bournemouth, Spurs, they're going to be a trouble. And then it's Burnley. Like, imagine looking at that and being like, oh, we're not going to get 3 points out of that. Come on. Jesus. Are we just happy swimming in the sad? Is that what we're doing now? For me, window's done. I'm doing the reporting on the bit of news that's coming out thing because that's what I kind of got to do. But I'm not gonna keep sort of wallowing because that's uncouth. It's not particularly a couth thing, you know. Muniz was the #1 target, and it seemed to change quite quickly. Obviously, you got Calvert-Lewin. Can you take us through that from your point of view? Let's give that a very quick skim. Big club in Europe or big club in England? Right, they're getting the signal that Muniz wasn't feasible. We had a glimmer of hope for Calvert-Lewin being achievable because the interest that he thought would materialise early in the summer hadn't fully happened yet. Moved very quickly in front of Dom, his agent, his family, and pitched the club, project, etc. Less than a week from getting that sort of indicator, he was here in the building signing his contract. Understand from the outside that was viewed at times as being rushed, or the phrase panic move came up. I hate the term panic move because it's not exactly someone that's completely off the radar. Like, it'll be in list somewhere. A point at Wolves, it's not low. It feels pretty wallowy, to be honest with you. We knew all along who we liked and who we didn't like, and the second one guy began to turn off, one guy turned on, we could snap into action, go get him. That roughly tallies with events, I think. Ow. You hear that crack? Ah, that was my wrist. Ow! Anyway, relegation clauses. Oh dear. Right, did you manage to avoid relegation release clauses in the players you brought in? You know, there's a big mill around the club's neck after the last relegation. Did you manage to avoid that with all the players you brought in and the concessions that you made? Here we go. This is the fun bit. I've not seen this question yet. I've not seen this answer yet. So you're getting a real-time reaction. Every player's contract is different. We know. I can say categorically we don't have any relegation loan clauses, which I found to be the most catastrophic. You lose a player for nothing. I kind of agree that that's the big problem, because you don't get any financial value in and you end up not being able to shift players. I have seen what the next sentence is. Some players have relegation sale clauses. That's fine, which is good, because it means that even if we go down, we've got some form of protection, which I don't hate. All of them are at a price or above, normally well above the price we paid for them. Many of them don't. Wait. Okay, that's many of them don't have the contracts. That's right, okay, that helps. The clauses, I understand from the player's perspective, annoys me from a fan perspective, but it's fine. Person to person based on their leverage. Who had the leverage to do that? Let's run through the players then. Because also the Athletic the other day did a ranking of all Premier League signings from 1 to like 153 or something. Stack, by the way, was ranked as the 17th best signing in the Premier League this summer, which is frankly incredible. But if I'm going to guess release clauses, I'm going to say probably Stack, probably Beale, probably Gudmundsson, probably Perry. I don't see Long... That was a hiccup, that was good. Don't see Longstaff having one. DCL didn't have the leverage to do it. Metcha was on a free, so he didn't have any leverage. Justin, I can't see having one, and I can't see Bornow having one either. Stack on set pieces, why? Because he's quite good at putting it in the right place in the box, is the infuriating answer. Admittedly, I would much rather have someone that can put it in the box themselves onto Stack's bonce, because Stack has a very, very tall bonce, but it seems like we're not particularly doing that at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe someone emerges as a better set-piece taker as the season goes, though. Nemenche on two-year deal. In that case, that won't be a sell-on. I don't see that being a... I don't see Metch having one. The freebies won't have one. I don't think James Justin has one. The ones that I worry about are Perry, Gudmundsson, Beale, Stack, and potentially Okafor. I don't know. And technically, yes, Harrison. And technically, yes, Aronson. Because they're on the old contracts, and we know what the clauses look like in those. I'm pretty confident that to a man, any player that comes down either will be in control of their sale or not, or if they're sold, I'm comfortable with the return they'll have generated to make it worth our while to have them. Which is sort of nice. Kind of what he has to say, but a little bit on the loan market. The point is, it's obvious I haven't brought any loan signings. What's the logic behind that? Not that many players who are being looked to be lent out by their current teams that fit what we needed and fit the profile of player we're looking for. Bonanotte was one of them, and I, off the top of my head, can't think of many other right wingers that are completely available. But also the thing about mid-20s, which means you're not going to see many loans, kind of makes sense. But why would you put Bogle on the wing? What? I don't know. No, an experienced loan player in the Premier League tends to not be a whole lot cheaper than buying someone. There's perception of loans as being some sort of category of free play, but loan fee, agent fee, wage coverage. Pretty soon you're looking at a similar number to a permanent for a player who isn't yours, so you're developing someone who's not going to return an investment for you, who's not going to live and die to fight off relegation. At the end of the day, they're going to go back home. to loan a player from the Premier League that are a handful of key characteristics, of which only a few names even made the list. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Ilan Bits, some interest, but it wasn't as strong as I expected for a player of his calibre. I'll be honest, it was exactly what I expected for a player of Illan Mellier's calibre. Now that he lost his spotlight last season because the team did a change, but he's a good player, young player, lots of experience. Frankly, he didn't want to go to a situation he didn't want to be in. Ended up being the case that for both parties it was better he be here. This sentence tells me that the only opportunity that he could find was as a second choice somewhere. Being that he didn't want to go to a situation he didn't want to be in. That, or it was Lorient, who I think are still in Ligue 1, but are a bit relegation threatened. And I don't think he wanted to go to Ligue 2. Matteo Joseph didn't come out to Germany pre-season. What are your thoughts on the situation? Obviously, he's gone out on loan. Is there a future of him? Think very highly. He got the skill set, needs the minutes. Every team trying to take him on loan was requiring a buy option for the same reason. Nope, because he's good. Only when Matteo's going on loan is if the door is open for us to have him back in the building. Season-long loan, no buy option. Hope he has a phenomenal season with Mallorca and comes back. Yeah, because that'll increase his fucking value and he can piss off forever for quite a lot of money. Favourite of the club, favourite of the chairman. I hope he does great. Don't like that. Don't like that sentence. Because whilst he may be a favourite of the club and a favourite of the chairman, I'm not super convinced that he should be. Especially when he actively briefed the media against the club. What does Player FC even mean, Rich? What are we talking about here? 4 keepers in a squad of 24. It's not. If you want to say 4 keepers in a squad of, then it's 25. But the calculated 24 does not include Illan Meslier. Unless you want to add Meslier, in which case it's a 25-man squad. Or if you want to remove Cairns to put Meslier in, then it's still 3 in 24. On Lodgy. Same story for Lodgy. Lodgy and Matteo both talented players, need the minutes, no buy option, have the option to bring him back, etc, etc. Wasn't getting the minutes last season. This year we've added Jack and Noah Okafor, so him to get the minutes he needs. He's better playing off in Spain, being coached by someone we know and trust. Is it Corberan that he's coached by? Might be. Hope it's good for him. His future's open here. It's the right thing for him and the club, etc, etc, etc. Yeah, that sort of generic spiel of this is how loan works. Maybe we should have tried to hold on to Joseph rather than getting DCL and Metro on a free. Not for me, to be honest. For me, if Matteo is going to be... What's a kind way of putting it? An irritating little scrote is what I'm going to go for. If Matteo is going to do Matteo things and sort of try and force his way out of the club and then to the media do an interview that's like, oh, I love Mallorca though, they treat me right here. Like, well done, you're not that special. Then he can stay gone, to be honest with you. And I think Metja and Calvert-Lewin are both big upgrades on Matteo Joseph anyway. So, who knows? They haven't had a Jack. I would argue that after like 2 seasons out, I know the whole like, oh, it's like a brand new player when you sign a player on a new contract. But in this case, he has been a fresh addition to Daniel Farke's squad. Daniel Farke has not had him available before. I think it is the case that like we just didn't have the opportunity to shill him anywhere. But anyway, on the Bamford stuff. Reached the decision to end his contract early. What was the thinking? Made clearly that Pat wasn't in the primary plans. Felt fairest that he'd be free to go and find his next stop on his own. Also known as we couldn't be fucking arsed to find the next move. So we worked to get a mutual termination done that allows him that freedom. We love Pat, club legend, helped us get promoted twice, but at that time it was the fairest thing for everyone involved to give him the freedom to go and get his next gig on his own. Right, so from what I know, DCL was our main target, to be honest. He wasn't. Like, it was very clearly Muniz. Just DCL was significantly more available. The infuriating thing about this is that he sat down with the press to talk through the window, and that much is fine, that much is good, that much is wonderful, fandabby-dozy. The bit about the whole thing that bugs me is the lack of follow-up questions. Because if we're saying that PSR was the issue on Bamford, and I recognise that moving Bamford on is going to be an incredibly difficult task. Because those wages are colossal. Without a doubt. 70 grand a week is huge. So you think, okay, why are we not asking the follow-up question of, was ending the contract early the most financially efficient way to go about things? Or would it have maybe been a bit wiser to push for a loan somewhere and say we'll cover 50% of wages or whatever? That's my question. Where's the follow-up question that says, did we save anything in terms of PSR by ending Bamford's contract early on the wages that we would have had to pay him? And it's the chasing up that is a little bit missing, I think. I also didn't see the thing about free players. Because someone said that there was a thing about free transfers, but I've not seen that anywhere. Deadline day, Harry Wilson. Sum that up. If you spent all the money. Free agent market. Oh yeah, there it is. My bad. I don't think right now there's any need so great that it's worth going to the free agent market to fill it, in part because I doubt the right players there. Had an emergency crisis with injuries. Beyond that, it's probably wait and see. Once we get through the first 10 games, your 8 games from January, and so if we have to evaluate, we'll use that. But our goal is to avoid January if possible. Everyone's saying that that's confirmation that we won't sign anyone in January. That's not what that says at all. Even a little bit. I've seen people be like, yeah, we're not going to do any frees. We're not going to do anything in January. That's not what that says. Specifically, I don't think right now there's any need so great that it's worth going to the free agent market to fill it, in part because I doubt the right player is there. That's not a case of... That's not we won't do it. That's we'll do it if there's a big problem. It's the same with the January bit. Our goal is to avoid January if possible. If it's not fucking possible, then it's not possible. Then you do something in January. Why are people so intent on reading words for things that they're not? For just reading different sentences than the ones that actually exist. It feels like people have read, we don't see using free agency as a priority, and go, oh, they're just not going to get any frees in then. I mean, they might not, but it's... I'd like to know what the fit they want is. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because everyone... It's the Phil Hay tweet, innit? In which Phil Hay verbatim said... It's not verbatim, I'm stabbing in the dark, I've just realised, but it's something along the lines of, you have to question what the impact of, quote, some cunt on a free would actually be. Which is going to be, effectively, shit all. Let's be honest. So if I go to Transfermarkt free agents. In terms of actual free agents right now, there is Josh Brownhill, which, yeah, maybe, sure, maybe we go for him. And then the other positions that we need, I think we'd agree, are attacking midfield and the right wing. So The most valuable right winger that's a free agent is Hakim Ziyech, who is currently 32 years of age. And the most valuable number 10 will be Christian Eriksen, whose legs basically don't work. I love Josh Brown, also I'm biased here. I don't know if he would really. He's not a 10. That's the thing. He's not the position that we need. He's one of the players that if we would have looked at him earlier in the window and people would have gone, well, why have we signed him and not a right winger? I don't know if he's the player that we need. I'm going to have a little bit more of a look and see if there's any other 10s or right wingers that I even recognised it. Oh, Tom Lawrence at the age of 31. There we go. That'll do it. Nathan Redmond on the right wing. Why is Samuel Umtiti a free agent? Didn't he win a World Cup? Did he win a World Cup? Samuel Umtiti, who won a World Cup 7 years ago, is currently a free agent. Hilarious. Yes, I did, because I was quoting what Phil Hay said. Wouldn't be real journalism if I didn't use quotes. You know. Bamford free. I feel like we would have to give Bamford quite a lot of money for a sign-on fee. Dele Alli for a free. No, that would be incredibly stupid. I understand that people see a name they recognise as a free agent and they go, ooh, shiny. No. Shiny he may be. He was barely playing for Como last season. And he looks about as fit as me. And I'm not gonna like egg myself up a little bit here, but I'm just gonna like, oh, look how strong I am. I'm not a strong boy. Ooh, grr. I'm the image of fitness, and I might be as fit as Dele Alli is at the minute. So maybe he's not the player that we look at to save us. Come on, let Dele Alli go after one game. Was it one game? I thought it was there for a season. I'll have a look. Give me Dele Alli. He might go back to MK Dons. You never know. Right, let's have a look. Oh my god, he genuinely joined Como in January. He joined Como in January and then was released within 8 months. That is horrific. He played one game for Como and got a straight red. And that was it. He just didn't play again. Are there any clips of that red card? Let's go to YouTube. And I'm going to try and not get copyright murdered. Okay, right, it's going to have to be a YouTube shot, so I'm going to mute it. Because it's going to be stupid, hyper-edited bollocks. But... yeah, okay, cool. Whatever. Wait, what was the... oh, that's not good. He's just stamped on his Achilles. He's just stamped on his Achilles. So that's good. Well done. Yeah, maybe not Dele Alli. That's sort of hilarious. Oh, God. Anyway, to sum up, the general gist is 1, PSR ceiling slightly hit, which means that sell players at the end of this season if we do anything in January or on a free. Don't want to dip into the free market. Don't particularly want to dip into the market in January, but it'll come on to sort of, if necessary, kind of vibes. And then ultimately, this is the squad we've got. So this is the squad that for the rest of the season I'm going to support, because I don't see the benefit of shouting into the void and being mad at the players that are here because there are players that aren't here. And I'm not going to be too mad at Daniel Farke for effectively not having the resources that he needs. Went through the frees on auto better last night. Yeah, the frees aren't great. I've got to be honest with you. Having seen a few of them in recent years, it's not good. The only one that I would call viable and maybe a good idea would be Brownhill. The rest, I don't think so. What's the latest on Jadon Sancho? Why are we talking about Jadon Sancho? Why is Jadon Sancho even part of the conversation? He's on loan at Villa, which is quite funny. 100% behind Daniel and the team, as are we all. Oh, well, all is a big word for 100% behind Daniel, because we know what the fan base is like sometimes. But anyway, I'm going to bring that stream to a close in a moment, because I am a little bit of a tired boy. I nearly had a bit of a nap before I started doing this stream. Ended up not doing it, but I kind of regret that, because the nap would have been nice. So if you haven't yet, I'd hugely appreciate you popping a like on the stream. That'd be lovely. On different tackle options, the ground development, if we go down, I wish I could tell you. I hope it gets done anyway, because in theory, ground stuff is independent of PSR, so PSR shouldn't be a problem relating to it, but I guess we'll have to see. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the stream. If you did, put a like on it, because it's at 35 at the moment. Let's pump those numbers up, rookie numbers, all that kind of thing. Subscribe if you haven't yet. That's Fandabby I'm in for about 7,500 relatively soonish. Could even be a member if you like. It's $2.99 a month. Get a bunch of stuff early. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo. You can't do the hype thing right now. I'll do a video in the morning. I think you can hype that. I think, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, bye.